Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Happy Halloween! I'm working on a project from our autumn advent calendar. It is this cute little guy here. It's an applique project. This is one of the things that came again with the autumn advent calendar. That's a past product, but that calendar came with a few pumpkins, right, that are die cut, and I've got some leftovers here, and it came with a bunch of squares like this that were all different colors. So I've got my pumpkin here, finishing him up, and as you can see, I appliqued him on with the blanket stitch, and I added a few buttons to finish him off. And I'm going to be, in the end, connecting my squares together, right? So I'm going to show you how I'm doing the blanket stitch. You could also use them independently and create kind of a collage, but I'm going to show you how I am kind of blazing through this project. This is a very fast project doing a single square with the die cut pumpkin. So this is what he looks like. And you know, I got involved with buttons because National Button Day is coming up in the middle of November, and I'm kind of getting ready for that with some projects. And I've got some nice old buttons that are from my stash. I just picked the solid pumpkin, and next time I probably will pick a different one. I've got some needles out from some of my old tomatoes, and I decided to do the stitching part instead of with thread, with some sock yarn. It's kind of funny colored yellows, browns, pinks. I thought a little bit of candy color theme. So that's what I've got going around my pumpkin guy. So I'm going to put this here, and we're going to be making another one of these together so that if you have the autumn advent calendar or you want to do something similar, you can see how easy it is to do this. I'm going to use this one as my base this time. Now this one I have it kind of horizontal, so I think this time I'm going to use it on a vertical kind of axis. And I'm going to choose from one of the leftover pumpkins which one I want to do. It is part of the thing, isn't it, to, oh, I like that one. It is part of the thing, if you have the autumn advent calendar, you have the different pumpkins and the different backings to choose as part of the fun, isn't it? So I'm going to start stitching this. I've just got a little bit of thread there. Let me get a longer piece so I don't run out immediately. I'm going to pre-cut my yarn. Start with a pretty yellow color here. And I'm just threading it. This is a regular needle. This is actually an old needle. I picked off one of these old tomatoes. And the thing is, the needle has to have a large enough eye for your thread to go through it, but you still want a pointy tip because going through wool is tricky. It's thick and it's dense and it's not easy to pull through. So for example, one of the types of needles that has the largest eye is the tapestry needle, but you don't want that because it has a dull tip and it's just not going to work. I'm just putting a single knot in it, and I'm going to pin it in place. Let me get this out of the way. It wants to play. I'm just going to pin it in place. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. If you want to do them off center or whatever, that's fine too. I'm doing a very sort of Andy Warhol composition here with just having it be a bit straight up. Maybe it's a bit boring, but that's what I got going. So I have it pinned into place, and now I'm just going to take my needle and let me string it a little bit more double so it doesn't immediately tangle. I'm going to start here at the kind of crook of the pumpkin, right? You see in the little hollow of its neck. I'm going to pull through there. Be a little bit careful of this stump, right? And I'm just going to get it started by anchoring it down a little bit, just a little bit. And the longer your thread is, obviously, or yarn, the more likely it is to tangle, which is just something I deal with. But it's still quicker. Uh-oh, look what I got going on over here. Classic. I'm going to move that guy away, and I'm going to move that guy away. And we're going to start the blanket stitch, which is also known as the blanket stitch, buttonhole stitch. So I'm going to come up into the pumpkin about that far. It's up to you how far you want to go. I'm going to come up, and I might be too long in the back because I'm tangling a lot. That's the thing, isn't it? It's that weird, finding that weird happy medium where you're not tangling all the time. I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to start the blanket stitch. It's going to stop doing that as I get some momentum going. And I'm going to come back down into my original hole, come back up next to it. Starting is always a little bit tricky, right? So I'm going to come back up here, about the same distance to the interior of the pumpkin. But before I pull through completely, I'm going to run the needle through the hole before I pull through completely. That is the blanket stitch. There's really not a ton to it. And I'm going to anchor down again just a little bit here. Actually, it's going to make more sense. You see how I want to anchor down there just because that first stitch doesn't have anything to lock onto. So I'm just kind of grabbing it, and then I'm coming back over here to pull through again. Be careful of that stump. It's a little more fragile. And before I pull through completely, I'm going to catch the loop again. And it's going to lay a little bit flatter this time, right? A little bit. Tuck that in there a little bit. It's fraying a hair, which it can do. You're going to see it gets better as it goes along. And then I'm going to just head over a little bit. Usually I go across as far as my stitch is deep. It's not a science, and it's not worth taking a ruler out for. And if it looks a little off, then to me that looks even more primitive and homemade. So I'm pulling through again, and then I catch it before it finishes itself up. Right? And you can see there is going to be a pattern where it wants to lay across the top of the pumpkin. And in again, little ways off, kind of eyeballing the distances, but if it's not perfect, it's never perfect, but I feel like it still comes out pretty okay, right? And again, you can see the pattern that when I pull it, you do see the stitches lining up at the top of the pumpkin and right through both layers. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, right through. No, wait a minute. What am I doing? Yep, through both layers and up about the same height and distance away, roughly. And then I pull through carefully again and I catch the loop. Let's do a couple more together, and then we're going to go into a higher speed. Let me adjust as I go so that I know that the loops are laying nicely on top. I feel like they are. I can adjust a little bit more. I pull a little bit so they lay nicely. I don't pull too much. I pull a little bit. And the further along I go with it, the more pronounced you're going to see that line. This is a color changing sock yarn. So we are going to see the color change happening, and that can kind of distort the look of the thing overall. This is the same, so you maybe want color change or maybe don't. I like the way the color change looks. I feel like most of it came out white, it's just where it fell on this one, but it did turn brown, a little bit of pink, a little bit of yellow. So it really depends on what you like. But I like working with the sock yarn as opposed to thread because I feel like it's more visible, and having that extra color element is fun. You can see my stitches over here are a little bit bigger. So I'm not going to undo them because I personally don't work like that. But I'm not exactly like to a scientific meamost with the distance between my loops. But for me, they're good enough. This is how you also make pennies for penny rugs, right? A lot of applique, most applique is done with the blanket stitch, which again is known as the buttonhole stitch. It's the same thing. So I'm going to speed up for a few minutes as I continue doing this and making my way around the pumpkin, and then we're going to come to the stump together. And by the way, it is entirely a good idea to, when you feel like you don't need, oop, I got stuck there with a knot. Oh, a little knot is happening. That can happen. So that's actually, oh, you know what? It went, can you see this close up? It went through, I stitched through the thread by accident. So I'm first going to see if I can come back through. That can happen because it's a multiply thread. It's like a 2-ply. I'm going to see if I can come back through, and if not, I'm going to cut and run. No, it worked. Look. It's a good time to pull out the first of the needles because, you know, when you don't need the needles there anymore because it's anchored in place here, it's a good idea to take them out because otherwise, oh, I missed in that kerfuffle, I missed catching this guy right when it knotted up. So let me catch him now. Just pull out your needles as you go so that you don't cut the side of your hand. You know, there's nothing worse than getting little injuries and blood all over the place while you're trying to stitch up your pumpkin. So we're going to speed up a little bit as I make my way around the pumpkin, and then we'll look at what our choices are for his sweet little face. am now at the part where there's a little stump, and I'm going to be a little bit careful here because I really want to tuck in that, that inside of the stump, that little line, that little contour. I want to tuck that pretty well. I want that to be hammered in, right? So this I kind of freestyle, I kind of look at it and I think about what I need to do as I go. So I'm going to still come up here on the little stump, but I'm not going to go quite as far in as I did before. Same technique, nothing really changes. And I wish my color would change, though. That would be exciting. It's not wanting to, but oh well. On the next one, maybe it will. So I catch it there just like I do, and I'm working my way up the little stump, and I'm just making decisions as I go with such a narrow, small little shape. I don't want to be crazy and put gigantic stitches in it, so they're a little bit more, proportionate to what I got going. And working our way up the stump, and into the corner. And you can see in the video, I'm sure, that because my yarn is so long, it does tangle. But if I run out, I'm simply tying a knot and pulling up the next stitch exactly next to that knot, right? So that's fine too. But maybe that would have been easier because it's a very big strand that I started with, isn't it? And I've got it doubled up at this point too. So let's be super, super careful. Oh, you little so-and-so. I'm going to pull the tail up so we're only dealing with one player. You can see as I've gone along too, it twists. And I haven't untwisted it in this video. I often spend time untwisting myself because there is that natural twist that it wants to do. And the more it twists, the more fun it is, right? That's a little bit sarcastic. Oh, good. The brown is coming out on the stump. Let me untwist a little bit here so that you see how it wants to twist up. I'll try to make that. Oh, I was twisting the wrong way. 50-50. There we go. Yeah, that'll help you as you go along with the aggravation factor. And right at the bitter end here, I think I'll put one into the tip of the stalk and catch it again. And you can see I'm coming right down to where I'm going to end it. Get him right around the edge. Well, that was nice because the yellow and the brown started right there. Probably have 2 more stitches here before there's no more room. Right around the edge. And makes a nice little shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? This is wool applique. This is for fun. You can also wool applique directly onto your other rug pieces, like your hooked pieces. You can absolutely do that. So it's a nice technique to have in your bag of tricks. It's a lot of fun. It's very fast. It's very easy. A nice way to integrate whole pieces of material, like to look at the whole plaid rather than just little strips of it cut up. It's a nice way to use material that you're really fond of. And as you can see, I'm coming into the edge here. I'm going to be real careful. It's very fine and fiddly here because these are large stitches and it's a small little stump. And I want to tuck away as much as possible. So pull at that a little bit because I wanted this to even out, which it has. And now I'm here. So I'm going to, with this last stitch, this is optional. But remember these first stitches I made that really weren't anchored super well? For my last stitch, I'm just going to catch that first stitch, right? I'm just going to catch it and drag it to where I want it. And just to give it one extra little anchor, because why not? You see how I did that? And then I'm just going to tie it with a single knot on the back because that will certainly be enough. Well, because that slipped, I'm going to do a double. I don't like doing too many doubles because then you see the little nubbins from the other side. So there he is, blanket stitched. You can see here somehow I didn't line it up well. So when that happens, it's entirely up to you. See, that is going to drive me crazy. For whatever reason, that stitch isn't sitting well. So what I want to do is I'm just going to do one more little double knot. This is for people who are super persnickety. I'm going to come up under that particular stitch and I'm going to catch it and drag it under, just like this. It won't even be noticeable. I'm going to kind of hide it under there, just so it sits well, Where you have little snafus, you can do that, and it's a big who cares. And if it doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter. But that's going to drive me nuts. So now this is the fun part, where I look at the little face and I think, ooh, what'll I do? You can see on this one, I was able to find, it's not that button, but a button like that to make the mouth. Here it is. I don't want to do the same thing over and over. That's a possibility. That could also make a nice nose. I think I'll do that for the nose. And then it's a question of what kind of eyes do I want, you know? And if you've got a nice stash of buttons, gosh, this is the fun. Oh, this looks like almost steampunky. This is the fun part, is playing. This is one I used for the nose, a pretty plaid kind of ceramic. And then there's really bright golds and some that are not as interesting. This isn't my main stash, but this is the stash that was handy. And, ooh, that might blend in too much. I like that. And then it's a question of what kind of mouth do I want? Do I want to put a bunch? Ooh, that's kind of pretty, isn't it? I was thinking about doing one. Oh, wait a minute, there's another blue. Is that a different? Ooh, that's a different blue. It'd be nice to have some different blues. I don't know why I have a few. That's the same. And this really, ooh, oh. There I did. Oh, that one I have, but you know what? I think I'm going to use it more than once. Maybe I'll do like this. What do you think? That makes kind of a nice smile. I think I'm going to do that. And this just reminds me, you know, you could add other buttons and things to the outside of your squares too. So I'm quickly going to stitch this on. I like it like that. And I'm going to do single. I'm going to start with the nose because the nose really dictates the personality. You could equally do, if you don't have a ton of buttons, you could just do a big like, uh-oh, for the mouth, right? Like a big, oh. But because I have all those little blue ones and I think it matches nicely with the colors I chose, I'm going to go for the blues on this one. So I'm just making my way, single layer, and I'm stitching the face on super fast like this. We'll speed up and you can see the face come together. Ooh, how'd I do Is anything in the way or am I good?
You're good.
Okay. Cute project, isn't it?
This will be good if you use a good title to get more craft people to watch it.
I use the keyword applique.
Halloween pumpkin applique. All that good stuff.
Yeah. How many minutes?
You got 12 left. You're at 23.
Won't be 12, that's for sure. Thanks for doing this with me. I know you've got stuff to do too.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's really not a good use of time when I have so many orders, but I think it's also good to tidy up the Halloween Advent calendar so people get to use all their supplies, and it's Halloween.
Yeah, it's a good video.
Okay, thank you. It's something different. It might draw in some different people.
Well, that's what I think, yeah, for sure. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay. And is there going to be a bunch of junk over my shoulder when we return?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, there we go. I think he came out really well. He's a sweet little thing, and he's going to join his friend in the ranks of the Halloween Glory, 2 of the button pumpkins. So this, again, was one of the projects that came in the Ribbon Candy Hooking's Autumn Advent Calendar. There was a ton of different techniques in there. We were calling it Hocus Focus Month, with a focus on all different kinds of techniques. And in this case, wool applique is one of them. So I just very quickly stitched some of my pumpkins down to backing and bust into my big button stash and came up with 2 very quick little pumpkins that are a lot of fun. I'll decide if I want to stitch them together or blanket stitch them together, or what I want to do with them in the end. But at this moment, I'm going to do a whole series of them and then make a good decision about what their future life looks like together. Have a great Halloween. Be safe, and I will see you next time. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and all of that. I will see you next time at Ribbon Candy Hooking. Happy Halloween.